All right, so this is your starter shingle. So the starter shingle has a little bit of a taper to the leading edge that's going to build up the front edge of your shingles so that it has that same profile going all the way up. So it matches the taper of your starter strip. If you run out of starter, you can rip the top edge of the shingle off to kind of mimic that. We don't recommend doing it, but if you were in a pinch and you had one more piece that you needed, you could do something like that on the job site. These starter shingles have these, there's little grooves in them, so you can snap them off real easily. So for that first shingle, in order to stagger the seams, tear off that first one, and that's going to be your start. As far as the overhang, just like, you know, 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch of overhang, basically the length of the tip of your finger, like that, is about what you want, okay? And then there's strike zones here that have the hammer. Okay, that's where you want to nail it. You want 6 nails per piece of starter. If it was the full length, 6 for sure. Now there's some deflection in the boards. All right. Yeah. Well, there's some deflection right there. That's why it's not hammering in. But anyways, we'll just kind of mock it up. So your starter shingle, get 2 of these going, bam, 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 you hit it with your gun, right? And your first one, you're going to line it up right with the front of the edge of your starter shingle, okay? Now you have that overlap, right? Then for your second one, it's a 1.5 tab offset. On this one, you do not need to line up the keyways, okay? You can randomize this. A lot of guys, they don't like the 3-tab shingles because you have to line them up, right? If you're off, it doesn't look right. With this, they could be more random, okay? So you want at least a 1.5 tab offset, but you can offset it, you know, a little more like that, so that you're not setting yourself up for that keyway alignment. So your second one's going to go like that, nailed down. Third one, you know, 1.5 tabs, what you want, at least. So let's go maybe a little bit more like that, okay? And then you can kind of break this off as you go. I'm running into this, sorry. So if you've got a long piece of overhang, you can bust that off, okay? Just like that, because you're still going to be over your metal on the edge. And then it would be a small piece. So what I would probably do in this case would be line it up a little closer like that, because you're okay doing that. Yeah, you're going to be close to that T-metal, but you're going to have something there, right? And then you're just going to cut it, and you can offset those seams. Yeah, you could do a small piece like that, yeah. If you wanted to, yeah. Yeah. And the other thing about that too, if you feel like this is too small, which it maybe is borderline, you could start a full shingle again up here. Maybe cut this one about like that, and then start your full course again, right? That's probably... Right, yeah. So that's probably the way I would do it, but you know, you could do it either way. Whatever works best for you guys on the job site, that's how you're going to do it, okay? Yeah. So then you would just do 3 courses all the way across, and then 3 courses all the way across. Now for cutting this stuff, all you got to do is score it with a straight blade. You can snap it right off, okay? Make sure your blade's sharp. Change them out frequently because they will dull out pretty fast as you're working with this stuff. But it's very easy to cut, very easy to work with. You can cut little pieces off of it if you need to, okay? Now the T-metal, that's what we have on those displays in that other room. So that comes up about 5/8 of an inch. You're going to want to install that all the way up before you start doing this, because that's going to cover this cut edge. If you don't do that, your homeowner's not going to be happy because they're going to see this going up the entire rake of their house, and it just doesn't look good, okay? So if you use that edge metal, it's going to cover all that up. It also is going to give it better wind resistance. So the product's warranted for 130 mile an hour wind resistance. It's rated for up to 150 mile an hour. But using that edge metal is part of that system that it's tested for. That's 6 nails per shingle, yes. So yeah, as far as the nailing pattern on the shingle themselves, we've got the little circles with the X's where we want you guys to hit. So I recommend using, as we kind of talked about, using these. So these are the Maze double hop dip galvanized gun nails, 1.25 inches. This has that kind of satin gray finish to it. So even if it falls in between the keyways, you know, one gets away from you and lands like that, you're not going to have it shining and flecking off the roof when the sun hits it, okay? And these are lifetime warranted nails. As far as, like, if the nail is there, it could be a potential. So if you do, you know, it's maybe not a bad idea to put a little dab of sealant there. But at least the nail itself won't corrode. In reality, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm. If guys do that stuff all the time. In the videos, they're going to be as by the book as possible. I mean, ideally, you want to keep it, you know, sealed right along this edge, but if you need to cheat it up to make it neat, that's fine.
Yeah, like on every kind of shingle, we pop different kind of lines to make it straight.
Mm-hmm.
So on these ones, on the bundle, they don't say.
So you're saying sometimes your reveal might be a little lower.
Yeah, a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And that's the only cheat that we want.
Yeah.
We don't want to go in that.
Right. Yeah.
No, yeah. Worst case scenario, if we need to level everything, coming up to the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When we get up to the bridge,
right.
weird. So when you get up on the ridge, we don't want it to taper.
Right.
We want it to be straight.
Yeah, because that's where you've got a straight line intersecting it. You could cheat it, I'd say, a little bit, but I wouldn't go anything dramatic, and I would only do it on like one course.
What I did is like put 4 or 5 shingles together.
And guys, feel free to come in and, you know, touch the stuff too.
Like that, and then when the first one I got the second one, it's pretty hard in that corner. roughly. You can bring maybe a quarter inch down, make line 24, each 24, and everything there is going to be straight.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing it on every single course, just because then what's going to happen is you'll wind up where the adhesive is falling in between the keyway a lot.
Yeah, but it is going to be less than a
But yeah, I mean, if you're slightly tighter, like it should be fine. But keep in mind as you're installing it, you're going to want to be applying pressure to it. So be walking on the shingles. You want to make sure that everything's sealing down, okay?
So esto no pega en este. Sí, pega bien tapado. Según él dice que no pega bien tapado. Like it's very well. It's very hard. Like they stick together. It's very hard.
Yeah, once it sticks, you know, it's just when it starts to get cold, it's.
Normalmente marcamos 45. 48 pulgadas no le pusieron la diferencia, no se va a aceptar. Es como la 30 se instalan las
That's the biggest deal for us too. Every homeowner wants to have, straight lines, make everything look nice.
Yeah.
Especially with when we have tabs like these. Just because we're familiar with 3-tab, the homeowners want to see straight lines. But then again, this is a different product, so
Yeah.
I guess we can.
With the 3 tabs, I think you almost have to install them that way.
Install it in the rake shop.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So with this, you don't have to line up all the keyways. So it's less work for you guys, or it should be. You know, you don't have to.
no, pero hay otro que sí, sale uno que sí hay que seguir. The one you have to follow, the 1, 2, 3, and the start a new one.
Yeah.
That one you have to follow.
So here, I'll show you that one. So that's this one here. So this one has the 1, 2, 3. You do not have to follow that. That is an optional thing. But you want to be somewhere in between those.
Empiezas una, primero digamos, empiezas una, pones primero una entera y después empiezas con el 3.
1, 2, 3.
Y después cuando llega al 3
Now, you guys can randomize this. It doesn't have to be, okay? You can go anywhere in between.
digamos, la primera empiezas aquí en el 1, la segunda aquí en el 2 y la tercera acá en el 3. Y de ahí otra vez otra entera.
So what we were talking about over there, so this is the markings, 1, 2, 3. So your first course, you can line it up at the 1, go across. Your second course, line it up at the 2, go across, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, all the way up. And that'll stagger your seams for you. Or, as long as you land anywhere in the middle, you can randomize them yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. If it's, I mean, if we're talking a little bit, I think you're probably okay. But I wouldn't, if you're thinking like, all right, an inch per course, I wouldn't do that. If it's like a quarter or less, because you want the adhesive to be able to seal somewhere there, right? So we've got the double bead. I wouldn't go more than, like if this entire thing is on the shingle face, then I'd say don't, it's too much. But just like a little bit of the edge there.
I can understand that because this is a flat surface.
Right.
That's what gives it a better quality.
Right.
Try your best to land on there. As we're installing, try to play with it.
Another important thing, guys, so when you've got the shingles up on the roof and you're passing them, you've got a guy down here, you're passing him shingles, slide the shingles to him with the adhesive faced up. Because if you start taking the shingles, like this one's sticking a little bit, especially if it's a hot day, if you're throwing shingles to the guys like that, a couple minutes, they're going to all of a sudden start sticking to each other, okay? So when you're sliding them to the next guy, keep them like this. And then they just grab them, flip them over, bing, 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 okay? So if we go over to this, this little dormer that you guys have here. I mean, we don't have to, I think. If you guys wanted to put some real shingles down, I mean, by all means, you guys are welcome to. It's up to you guys. So there's your, your cap shingle there. Obviously, it wouldn't have that reveal. But one of the questions inside there was, if you feel like the shingle, when you're tightening it up, is starting to kind of craze through or look like it wants to crack or it is cracking, it's probably a little bit cold. So if you heat it up with the heat gun, you're going to get a little bit more pliability out of it for a really steep slope dormer, okay? So you're going to have, this shingle's going to start that direction, the one on the other direction, same exact way as you would a regular. So you're going to have so if in this instance you guys would have the T-metal going up and down, so that's going to cover the edge of that. Oh, if you're installing a ridge vent? Yes, yeah, so an 11-inch ridge vent is what this is made for. No. So we keep it easy for you guys. So whatever ridge vent you like using, whatever pipe boots you like using, whatever starter or ice and water, whatever synthetic underlayment, we have no opinion other than if you're using a granulated, we want you to cover it with the synthetic so that it doesn't get the granules all over the surface, and then now you've got adhesion issues. In the video, they did a transition with this, and he was cutting the angle or for an outside corner. So if you look on the back, you can see they've got some little areas here, which is going to be the typical spots where you would cut those out. So he just took his knife, marked out like, okay, that's my angle, and then he followed it up and he just sliced it, broke it off, okay? So that's how you do your outside corners with these hip and ridge pieces. And then your middle one, when you get to the end, you can just cut the nailing fin off. Your straight blade, break that off. And then this could be your final piece. Four nails in it. One of the edges is not going to have adhesive on it, so you're going to want to add, OSI quad on this. And then as you're driving the nails through, I would recommend dabbing the sealant on and driving the nail through, but dab the sealant underneath. If you put it on the surface, it might chalk out on you over time, or it might look unsightly. Change the sheen, you have it. So if you're going to be doing any face nailing, I would put just a big dollop of sealant under where you're going to hit it. And that's going to come together kind of like that, right? Typically in the middle. If it's a long roof, it's really up to you guys. Whatever you typically like doing with an asphalt shingle, the installation practice is going to be very, very similar to what you're used to doing. So most of the time we go through these videos, it's, hey, look, what you're doing with asphalt, it's more or less very similar to what you already do, with a couple of considerations. You know, the edge metal, the W pan, and the valleys. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Any other questions on these sorts of applications, guys? Is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel is important? You know, we've talked about the reveals and some of the scaling stuff up there. Is there anything else you guys might run into on a job that you don't feel has been properly covered? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you know, I know a lot of guys will rest them over the ridge. Yeah. Typically, I think the problem with that is, especially if the shingles maybe have been sitting in the yard and they're cold, you know, if they've been on the bottom of the bundle, they haven't warmed up. If you start putting them over the top, you could maybe get where the weight is starting to crack the shingles or something, and you're, you know, dealing with that, or it could develop a memory, because you want it to be flat when you're installing it. If it's got a little bit of a wave in the memory, you're going to be fighting it the whole time. So as much as possible, keep them flat if you can, okay? So the question was in the video, it said, you know, not to rest the shingles over the ridge. You know, a lot of that's going to have to do with creating like some memory in the shingle. If they're rested over and they're stacked 3-4 high, you could wind up where now it's got a wave to it, and then you're fighting that on the entire installation. So as much as possible, keep the shingles flat, and they're going to stay flat for you. They use like roof jacks and stuff to kind of rest them up there. If you guys have those, that's what I'd recommend doing. Good question. For the transition here, the W metal, they're running it beyond that little joint there. Is that typical what you would do if you're using so in this application, that transition, using that W metal, they run it past about 6 inches. Is that what you typically do? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah. There's a lot of joints there, and if the roof's gonna leak, it's gonna be that spot. Yeah. I could cut. This one gets installed just like the hand split shake does, okay? You can randomize the courses. You don't have to line up the keyways. And it actually is going to look more natural if you don't line them up. So that's the classic slate. This one has the numbers punched into it as well. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes the bottom is not as straight.
Of the eave?
So we have to come down a little bit.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Yep. It's easier to cheat it that way than it is to mess with the courses. So, yeah. Because the drip edge that we recommend actually it comes off the roof and then it goes back. So you've got something that it's resting on as you're installing it. Yeah. Good question. Right. So let's do that. Let's do it with this one. Yeah, it doesn't feel that sticky when you touch it with your finger. But yeah, just resting in this room like that, it adheres really well. And then as soon as the sun hits it, heats it up, and it essentially welds them together. All right. So as far as repair of a damaged shingle, so say your hammer scrapes across it real bad, okay? And you've got one like this. The sun will blend this. It might take a few hours to a couple of days, depending on how hot and how much sun you have. I'll demonstrate this with the blowtorch because fire is fun, as long as it pilots. There we go. This is, yes. Exactly. So when a shingle is made with recycled polymers, okay? When polymers are initially formed, whether it's to make a tire, to make a water bottle, it develops memory in the polymer, okay? A recycled shingle may not repair like that. But for F-wave, we use all virgin polymers, okay? So the first time that they are formed into an F-wave shingle. That's why when you repair it, they actually go back to where they were because the memory is where it was. Now, another cool thing, so that was just a scratch. So let's say it gets a really bad slice, okay? Something gashes it, a rake or something, right? Your hammer really gets it good. So it seals it right back down. So you guys don't have to remove the shingles if you've got one damaged up in the middle there, okay? Now, if you did, like in the video, they've got one that's completely cracked out, yeah, that one's gotta be replaced. But scratches, gouges, bad hail, I mean, hail dimples, if it even does anything to the shingle, that will also blend back in with heat in the sun. So if you get a homeowner that says, hey, I'm noticing, a branch fell on it, there's a shingle that's maybe a little dented looking, wait until, spring, wait until things heat up, and let's see if it's still there in a couple of months, okay? Yeah. Oh, did you see the video where they're shooting it with the shotgun? Oh, yeah. So try to find the one that I just fixed. I think it's, for Class A, it's probably like 30 minutes or something. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. Yeah. I don't know what like the roof fire testing, like to be Class A shingle, it's probably at least 30 minutes, maybe 60. But I mean, it won't burn. We could keep torching this stuff, and I mean, you will change the surface, but I mean, it won't catch fire. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, if there's a length of time, however long, but it won't catch fire. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So that's the shingle that was cut and scratched. I mean, it's really hard to even see where I melted it back together. And, Yeah. And I mean, this is with a blowtorch. It's a little bit more extreme. It's more fun. But a heat gun will do the same thing. Okay, you don't have to have open flame on your roof. You got a heat gun. Little butane torch works. But what I have found with the little butane ones is if you get too close, it will actually black it out a little bit and create like a soot mark. Whereas this, I've got a little bit more control over it. A heat gun, you've got a ton of control. So, and you don't have to worry about like lighting something on fire underneath the shingle. Yeah, yeah. You might get a little like a soot because it doesn't burn as clean. But yes. And it will, I mean, if you've got a shingle that you're like, you know what, this one's a little gnarly looking, let's just put it up by the ridge, and maybe by the time we get there, that one will be good to use. Yeah, you want to put the synthetic over the top, because you know if the guys are walking all over it with their boots, and now all of a sudden they got all those granules on their boots, if that gets onto this adhesive, now it's not going to seal. So that's why we want to cover it if you guys are using a granulated. You know, we recommend non-granulated. It saves you a step. It saves you a little bit of material. But guys like the granulated, I get it. Right. Yeah, so like let's say you got a really bad hailstorm and the homeowner calls you and they go, you know what, I feel like I could see some dimples and some spots. Tell them, hey, look, give it a week. Let's wait for a hot day where the sun comes out. It might blend that. So let's. A little bit more. Yeah. So it dimpled it a little bit, and that's whacking it with a hammer. If I hit it, kept hitting it, you know, but it was dimpled when I hit it with the heat. So if you get something that, you know, even has a compression mark on it, the sun might blend that out for you. So. And I don't know who heard it, but the product is made from TPO. Same thing that commercial roof is lined with, okay? So it's not like a polypropylene plastic or anything.
So, do you know how heavy this bundle is?
Yeah, so they're about 30 pounds per bundle. Yeah, 6 bundles per square, 10 shingles per bundle. Yeah, yeah. About 30 pounds per bundle. So it's 10 of these per bundle, and 10 of these equals about 30 pounds. Six bundles a square. This is your strike zone. So on the back, you can see you got like 1.25 inch strike zone. This is where you want your nails to hit. Okay. On the front, it says you've got these circles with the X's. But as long as you're anywhere in this spot, you're golden, okay? And then like for the shingles on the edge, you could throw another one, you know, a little bit higher just to give it a little bit more. On the valleys, we do recommend just to give it a little bit better water shedding. So if you were coming up to that W metal, ideally we'd like to see you guys cut little dog ear off of it. That just gives the water a little bit of an angle to run down. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Same thing you already do. Yeah. Yeah, so pretty much all the same of what you guys are used to doing. Yeah. So especially with colored sealants, but most professional sealants, they're designed to be in a certain bead design, a certain amount of body. And what happens is if you're smearing over a lot of nail heads, the sun breaks it down because there's not enough body there, not enough titanium dioxide and the chemicals that keep the color to prevent it from losing its color or chalking out. So if you are going to do, where you're putting some sealant over the nail heads, use it sparingly. Don't be all over the roof kind of doing it because you might wind up with a bunch of white spots. Only inconspicuous spots, up, where it's kind of hidden. Otherwise, after 6 months, especially if you're doing something like this and if you're using like a black sealant to daub it, it will turn white, guaranteed. So to terminate it like to the end, yeah, so you'd flip it backwards on the other end, and then we're going to cut this off. You're going to put the sealant on here. So there will be 4 in this piece. So if you have a piece like this, yeah, so in the video, they say to go over the top. I would not do that. Just put big Hershey Kisses under where you're going to hit it, and then go through, and then that'll seal it down from underneath. That's the way I would do it. Yeah, so 1 3/4 for the cap. And on this piece, you might need a little bit. I don't know if you might need a little longer than that. You could, yeah. So you could do like a Hershey Kiss on the top without smoothing it out. That would be better. But if you just kind of smear it on there, it will lose its color 100% of the time, okay? So my recommendation would be just put big Hershey Kisses right where you think you're going to run those nails. Put it up there and hit it, okay? That'll seal it from underneath. So, right. Mm-hmm. Right. So you don't have to, no. That's one of the things like with 3-tab is if you're off, right, the homeowner's like, oh, the line's not perfectly straight. With this, you can line them up if the homeowner wants that look, but it's more work for you guys. You do not have to. So as long as, so these are all kind of stuck together now. But on the shingle, you've got that little line. As long as it falls in between there, you're good. Yeah. So one of the questions was, on 3-tab, you're lining up the keyways like a bricklay. With this profile, you do not have to do that. I know it's a pain in the butt because if you're off center a little bit, the homeowner is like, oh, there's one that's out, right? With this one, kind of like how they've got the 1, 2, 3, they've got these little lines here, okay? As long as the tab falls in between there, you're in a safe range. Instead of the keyway. Yes. Yes. Yeah. If the homeowner wants that look. Just depends. It really is what you guys, well, ultimately it's probably going to be the homeowner saying I want it to all line up, or I don't care, or I would prefer if it looks more random. If it's more random, it's going to look more like a architectural shingle installation, You're not going to see, but if you got a real OCD homeowner, they may want it that way or they may not, So, yeah. All good questions.
Standard installation practice with a conventional. You know what I mean? You do that rehab, you're gonna have somebody.
Right. Somewhere it's not going to line up, and it just draws attention.
Well, that's a free tab setup. That's why.
Yeah. Right. You want it to be random. When we have installations that go up and they line up the keyways, it doesn't look good. It looks manufactured. If you randomize it, it looks natural.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
It's up to you guys. Oh, you did the nail puzzle. Nice. There's a little twist to it, and yeah. I think that's everything that I got, other than if there's any additional questions. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate all your time, and you have a great, yeah. Source it from, so we don't have like an F-wave W metal. So like ABC, who's going to be stocking these for you guys, they've got the W metal, they've got the edge metal. No, nope, just the standard metal flat, coated metal flashing. I think ABC said they've got it in like 3 colors. They were here. There were a couple of sales guys were here, but we did the sales training 2 weeks ago.
It's just like any sales tactic, packaging, 100% guaranteed nail into your cost. Like, hey, we can put the standard nail on there, but if this is what the cost is, and that way you're not eating any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be $300 to use a lifetime guaranteed nail versus just the regular import electrogal, you know. Yeah. Yeah, it's what's holding everything down. So. Yeah. So Rake and Valley, or not up the Rake edge, no. Eaves and Valleys, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But below a 2, you're covering everything with Isaiah.
Yeah, below 4 actually. Yeah. Below 412. Yeah, 212 to 412, full things ice and water and synthetic. Right, yeah. So, there's one other thing we didn't touch. On a really steep roof, mansard roof, you're going to be manually adhering the tabs. You want to hit them with the sealant too, which I think you do that with asphalt as well. You're manually sealing the tabs down. So that's just one other thing. Like a mansard roof where it's really, yeah.
What is the actual pitch that you guys want that to?
1812. 2412. I mean, I don't know, Mike. What do you? Yes. Yeah, so you want to make sure that it's sealing. So adding the adhesive is going to give you just a safeguard, but the adhesive isn't going to cure for like 2 weeks. So bonding these on the job site is very important. And that's why if like you have one that's lipped up, that you put the adhesive down, you put it down and then hit it with a trim nail, stainless steel trim nail, because that'll then hold it down. You know, the adhesive got a little fouled up or something. Yeah, battery caulk them.
30 cartridges. You can just sit there and all day.
Yeah.
That'd be a good plug in 30 cartridges and it's the Milwaukee base. So you, as long as you've got another Milwaukee battery, you can stuff them out with
Yeah.
computers.
And they full charge in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the Walt household.
Buy a gun that does have the Milwaukee base battery as well. We don't have that one, sorry.
Trying to think if there's anything else.
Milwaukee's pretty big, but we don't get into DeWalt ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So the shingles are exclusively through ABC. Yeah. So they're going to stock. So they're kind of relying on you guys, your sales team, to say, okay, these are the 4 colors that we think are going to be the hot ones. My guess is it's going to be like 2 colors of these, the black classic slate, and then probably this one. If I had to put money on it, those are the 4 I'd say. Yeah. So these ones are, yeah.
Charcoal and black is not your number one. So those are going to be your number one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then probably the Castlewood Brown, which is the one that's 1 shade darker than this, and then probably this one. So we've got 2 colors in the slate currently, and then we've got another one coming out this summer that's going to have some green and red in it. I don't think it would look good. Huh? Total? 12 total colors across the entire line. So 2 in the classic slate, 3 in the hand split shape, and there's 3 in this profile, and then we've got the scallop cut one that has 4 colors. Yeah. Now the scallop, you have to line them up. So this one and the scallop are both the same. That's our entry-level price point. Then next, you're going to hear it's about a 15% jump from this to that. And then from that to that, it's a 10% jump from here. Yeah. So you've got 3 price levels. But we're coming in, we'll be quite considerably less than Da Vinci and Brava. And the installation on those versus this is tremendously different. Yes. And EuroShield's a recycled product, so as far as like the self-healing, it's not going to have that. So this is your entry level, this one with the squares as well as the scalloped. Then it's about a 15% jump to go to that one, and then 10% to go to that one. Or 10% from this to that. So it's... You're asking what your pricing is? So your pricing per square on this one and the scalloped versions, I think, is and just the material cost. That one I think is like $504, and then that one's like $550. Right. Yes. That's the big savings. Yeah. 30 pounds. A skid is, it's like, the skid's about this high. So, you've got a lot. I think it's 10 square per pallet. Yeah.
Is there a little bit wider? I think they might go four per skid. So I'm thinking about either like 48 on one skid or 39 on one skid.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this will take up a lot of space on the truck.
Let me look up, we don't recommend stacking them. Stacking skids.